Today we're going to be breaking down one of the big decisions that you'll have to make when scheduling your CPC exam, or really any AAPC exam, and that's should you take it via the exam center or a live remote proctor. Both options have pros and cons. It kind of comes down to your test taking prowess, your technical skills, and your tech setup. So let's break down some of the differences. By the way, if you're new here, hey, I'm Victoria. I'm a medical coder, auditor, educator, and content creator. And on my channel, I provide tips, tricks, and tutorials to help you be successful in a medical coding career. If you haven't already, highly encourage you to subscribe and hit those notification bells so you can get alerts when I post new episodes. Now, first, let's be very clear about what the two options are that you have for your exam. So the first is going to an exam center. This might be in a business park, in an office building. It might be a freestanding building. It might even be at a school. And you go there in person and you are personally monitored by proctors there at the exam center. The second option is the live remote proctor, which means you can take it at home or somewhere where you have a quiet area, a private area, and you have good internet connection there, but you are responsible for the tech setup. So not just bringing your books and your ID, but also you have to make sure that you have the correct setup on your computer, that you don't have additional monitors plugged in. You have to have an external webcam. So you are personally responsible for some of that tech setup, and you will communicate with that proctor via the microphone and your webcam. They will be watching your camera and they will be watching your screen share monitor the entire time. So let's start out with the exam center. Now, I have a whole video that you can watch too on my personal experience with the exam center, but I want to start out by saying with the exam center, one of the pros of that is you don't have to worry about that tech setup. You show up with your ID, and if you're bringing physical books, you bring your physical books. If you're using ebooks, then you just need your ID. With the exam center, there's also going to be likely less distractions. When we used to have local chapters proctoring the exams, they would often have them at hospitals, and there would be code blues, there would be babies being born, there was all kinds of noise sometimes from cleaning crews. With the exam centers, it's nice and quiet. You don't have to worry that the Amazon man's gonna ring your doorbell. You're not gonna have to worry about your pets. But do keep in mind that the exam centers aren't AAPC exam centers. They are not medical billing and coding exam centers. There are lots of people there taking exams from lots of different professions. So some of those people might have different things that they're allowed to access. They may have headphones on because there's things in their exams that they have to listen and respond to. So they might have different material. So make sure that when you're going to the exam center that you're only bringing the materials that you are permitted to have. I will link below the list directly from the AAPC that gives you the information directly from the horse's mouth of what you are allowed to bring for your exams and the setups and references and things. Another pro of going to the exam center is you will have immediate support. So if your exam freezes or your internet goes out or there's some kind of other issue with the platform, there is someone physically there that you can go and get and go, oh my God, my exam completely froze, or the internet went out, the electric went out. Like they are there to provide you that individual support. However, I will say that their focus really is to make sure that it's working from that sort of tech aspect, that there's, no connectivity issues, it doesn't log you out. They're also there to make sure that you're not cheating on the exam. Other than that, they're not really there to teach you the platform. They're not there to teach you how to flag questions or skip questions or how to click on the answers or submit anything. That is all sent to you in your notice to schedule the exam from the AAPC. They send you a whole video that says, here's how you navigate the platform. The proctor is not going to tell you how to navigate the platform. So you need to have all of that information going in. I will also drop the link below of the information on how to navigate the platform, my information, as well as the AAPC's official information as well. But they do send it to you when you get your notice to schedule your exam. There is the link in the email. And another pro of the exam center is it's just a structured area. Some people feel a little bit more confident when they're in sort of that professional setting. Now, the cons of the exam center are that it's probably not going to be close by. You might have to commute a little bit. It might be 20 minutes for some people. It might be 2-3 hours for other people. So depending on where you are located, especially within the United States, if you're in a more spread out area, it might take you a while to get to an exam center. Some people might even have to stay stay at a hotel and be close to the exam center for their exam. This is kind of standard, honestly, with professional certification and license exams. If you're someone who is taking an examination to become a lawyer or an anesthesiologist or a physical therapist, you will not likely have an exam center in your area. You will have to travel to get to one. It's honestly just part of belonging to a professional association and taking those official examinations. Another con, though, of the exam center is there's oftentimes a fixed schedule. They're going to work within business hours. A lot of them aren't going to have evenings or late hours like you would be able to for some of the remote options. For my exam center area, I think when I scheduled my last exam there, they're like, hey, you can come from and take your exam from 8 to noon, or you can take it from 1 to 5. Those were the time slots that I was allowed. And you might face some test day nerves, like there's a new environment now, and some people that does cause them to have anxiety, that they're like, oh my gosh, like I don't know my way around here, I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and that might, for some people, make them feel a little bit more uncomfortable. Especially if you're not used to kind of that strict, standardized sort of testing center type thing. Like they do have you do things like possibly turn out your pockets to make sure that you don't have anything in there that you might cheat with. They might actually wand you down with a metal detector before you enter the exam center. So those are some considerations to think about. And there are some strict physical rules. There's certain things that you are not permitted to bring into the exam center. Now, having said that, obviously you're probably going to drive there. You're going to have keys. You might have your wallet or a purse. You might have your cell phone. So what are you going to do with those? Most of the exam centers have some sort of locked locker that you can go to. So there's like an area that you go to, you check in, you can store your stuff in a locker, and then there's the actual exam area where they keep the computers, where they don't obviously want you having access to things that you could cheat on exams with. They also don't want you to have snacks and water, because if you have crumbs or beverages that spill or get over the places, it's going to damage their equipment, and you might be very responsible, but other people might. So as just a across the board rule, they don't allow people to have food and beverages in those exam areas because of the equipment. Now, having said that, let's say you get a dry throat or a froggy throat, or you're diabetic, or you need a cough drop or something, you can leave those items in your locker or leave them in that check-in area. But when you need to utilize them, you have to remove yourself from the exam testing area, go there, get your drink, get your beverage from your locker, drink. You can go to the bathroom too if you need to, and then come back. They might check you back in. They might wand you down. They might check your pockets again, something like that, in order to access the exam center again. However, the clock will not stop for you when you do that. So if you need to go grab a cough drop, or you need to go get something, a medication, you have to understand that that's not going to pause your exam timer. Now, if you have some kind of condition where you might need a disability accommodation, there is a form that you can fill out with the AAPC that you might need a little bit longer time for your exam, or you might need some kind of additional accommodation. That is all up to the AAPC. So I cannot speak to what and where and when and how they approve that and for what. Now, let's talk about the live remote proctor, starting with the pros. The first is that you don't have to commute. You can likely take it at your home as long as you have a private, quiet area that you can sit and take your exam. There's also a lot more flexible scheduling. So as opposed to the exam center, you might be able to take your exam during the evenings, during late weekend hours. There's a lot more flexibility with the scheduling there. And it's a more familiar environment. You can sit at perhaps your own desk, use your own comfortable chair with some nice padding to it. You could possibly spread out more depending on what kind of setting that you have available. And you have the same open book policy. Medical coding is not structured in such a way that it would be any way possible to memorize the 100,000-ish codes between ICD-10-CM, CPT, and HCPCS. So you can still have access to use your code books. But there are quite a few cons to taking it via the live remote proctor. First and foremost, if there's any kind of issues, if there's tech issues, if your camera freezes, if your computer glitches out, you lose electricity, that's a lot more anxiety for you to take on to figure out how to navigate around that, versus if that happens in person, you have someone physically there to be like, oh my God, the electric went out, what am I gonna do? There is also very strict monitoring for the remote remote proctors. So they want to see what your hands are doing. They want to see where your eyes are looking. They want to see your books on your desk. So you have to have an external webcam. You have to oftentimes set it up on some sort of tripod so that it's angled in such a way that they can see everything that's going on. You have to screen share. You have to make sure that there's no background noises, that there's no one coming into the room, that your pets aren't scratching at the door, that they're not hearing voices from a TV in the next room. It has to be a very quiet, controlled environment. You can't have anything on your desk except for your books if you're using physical books, and a clear bottle with clear liquid, basically water, inside of it. So you really can't just go, oh, well, I'm going to set up my laptop on my kitchen table and think you're ready to go. Because if there's other people walking around, there's things in the background, there's note papers, there's Post-its hanging places, it's not going to be an approved area. And at home, you might have those distractions. You might have your family, your kids, your pets trying to jump up on things. You might have the delivery man ringing the doorbell. You might have alarms going off, your neighbor mowing their lawn outside your window. And you take on a lot of responsibility for that tech setup. You have to be able to go, okay, here's how I set up my screen share so they can watch your screen the whole time. Again, that webcam, it has to be external because it sweeps your whole room. They want to see your ceiling. They want to see under your desk. They want to see that no one's peeking through the windows. They want to check everything. And you might have to move the webcam all around so they can see and make sure that you're not doing anything that might constitute cheating. And again, nothing on your desk except keyboard, clear water bottle, and possibly your books if you're using your personal physical books. If you have even a second monitor, they will make you unplug your second monitor. And they do watch very, very closely. I've talked to the AAPC and they've told me that they've caught people cheating because they were answering questions about a CPT question, and they were clicking and they could see that their hand wasn't moving, and then they saw that they had their ICD-10 book open and they were pretending that they were looking at their ICD-10 CM book, but it was a CPT question and it was getting answered, and it was that someone had like a remote mouse in the next room and they were watching, or they were under the table and they were taking the test for them. So they are very, very strict. They really are watching because unfortunately there are people who are trying to cheat through the exam. So really, how do you decide which one is better for you? So if you're someone who's like, I don't want to have to worry about the tech setup, like I don't want to have to worry about the gear or getting an external webcam and a tripod and setting it up, and you don't mind going out somewhere else that's more structured, then you might be better suited for the exam center. But if you want the comfort, you want the flexibility, and you're willing to take on some of that tech responsibility and make sure that you have all of the right items, that you're going through the instructions with a fine-tooth comb, you're like, yep, I know it has to be a clear bottle. You're not trying to put a bottle of Pepsi or some iced coffee on your table, and you have a nice, clear, private area that you can use, that it's not a public shared area that you're just like stuck yourself in a corner with a laptop, then you might be more suited for the live remote proctor. Neither of them is really easier. It's the exact same difficulty level of the exam, and in both situations, you will be taking the exam electronically. You log onto the exam platform electronically, whether you're taking it in person at the exam center or whether you're taking it via the live remote proctor. There's no paper exams like we used to have years ago. They both have the same format. They both have the same pass-fail rate. So no matter which one you choose, though, make sure that you are familiar with that exam platform. Make sure you know what materials you're allowed to bring. If you're bringing physical books, make sure that they're highlighted and tabbed and you don't have sticky notes in them, that they're the right editions, that they're the right years. Practice ahead of time. And if you need some additional CPC practice, I actually have a review course that you can buy that is very, very budget friendly and includes some really great resources. And it's me as an instructor instead of an AI voice, which, I personally think you'll learn a lot better from. So are you team exam center or are you team remote live proctor? Definitely let me know in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys in the next video. And until then, just keep on coding on.